Welcome to another episode of Talk Horror to Me Happy Hour. So tonight we don't have a happy hour, or maybe this is a happy hour, but I forgot the drinks.
Right.
So let me go ahead and introduce you to my special guest, Miss Kim Byler.
Hello.
I had everything prepared and I forgot, so my bad. So let's go ahead and get started on who we're talking about tonight. And who are we talking about tonight?
We're talking about one of the most notorious Hollywood, the big Hollywood killer.
The big Hollywood killer.
Edward Gein.
Oh, so I heard they used to call him the Butcher of Plainfield.
The Butcher of Plainfield.
Yeah.
Yes, but I say the Hollywood killer because he has probably had more movies, shows, characters
Yes.
based on him than many of the others.
Yes. Psycho.
Psycho, yes. Norman Bates was based on him, which was actually taken from a book. That was actually taken from a book written by Robert Bloch. And then 1974, there was a character Ezra in the movie Deranged.
Oh, I didn't know that. I knew about that.
Also 1974, Texas
Chainsaw Massacre. Yeah.
Leatherface.
Yes. Yes.
Had some of their details taken from Ed Gein. And of course, my all-time favorite movie, 1999, Silence of the Lambs.
Yes.
Buffalo Bill.
Yes. So let me ask you something on the first one, the Psycho one. Wasn't it because when his mother died, he stored her and locked her up? And I read that somewhere where after she died, he kept her in the room and locked her up.
Norman Bates or Ed Gein?
No, Ed Gein.
Which one are we talking about?
No, Ed Gein. Did he do that with his mom?
She was buried.
Oh, okay.
But they do believe, well, he has said that he did go back and visit her after she was buried.
Okay, so I thought he locked her up and kept her because I thought he made a skin suit out of her. Yes?
That was not her.
Who was that?
That was various other people that he was doing a lot of grave robbery, body snatching.
Yes, I knew that.
From graves.
Yes.
Until he graduated up to and needed fresher skin. He needed fresh skin, and so
those skins wasn't good enough.
Moved into murdering people because, as he said, the fresh skin was plump and moisturized and it's easier to work with because the old skin that was decaying was harder to use.
Okay, so let's
Oh, was there an explicit warning on
that? I think we should. I forgot to put that disclaimer out there. Let's jump back for a minute because we really did just dive right on in. We just dove right on in. His mother. Let's talk about that really quick.
Okay.
His mother was a religious nut, right?
She was, yes.
And abusive
she was
to him.
Fanatically religious. She was abusive physically, verbally. She was religiously abusive, religious abuse. He had a brother. He and his brother, we go back a little bit further. His father, who died first, his father was an alcoholic, didn't work a lot.
Right.
And his mother originally had been kind of the breadwinner of the family. She ran a business, and then they moved to Plainfield, where they were on a remote farm, and she basically cut them off from contact from.
Well, she preached that there were evils of the world and that women were impure except for her.
Women. She had very clear names for what they were, and yes.
I said impure.
Oh, that was a nice word. Yes, they were all sinful and unholy, and all women, with the exception of herself, of course.
With the exception of herself. I think that's the reason why I feel like this Norman Bates for him, kind of, because that's kind of how Norman Bates' mother was as well. Right. What does she say? The boy's best friend is his mother.
Correct.
So and she cut off all outside from them.
Right. When Augusta was her name, when Augusta
moved, thank you.
When Augusta and George moved the family to this farm in Plainfield, I believe Ed was about 8 years old at that time. The only place they were allowed to go off of the farm was to school. They were not allowed to make friends. They would be punished for making friends. So they didn't make friends. They started cutting off contact with anyone in the outside world, and they would just come home to her to work on the farm and have her preaching fire and brimstone and all the sins of the world. If you talk to anyone and make friends with anyone, and if you ever talk to a woman, this is what you're going to hell.
Now, with that all being said, wasn't he a babysitter? He was. Yeah.
He was. He was a local. He was known locally to be a handyman.
Yes.
Yes. It was also known in the community. He babysat for people.
Oh, yeah. He was. I read that they said he was very employable. Like they would hire him for different things, but I guess working on the farm and all that kind of stuff. He had those.
He was just local farm hand, handyman, all around the community, just whatever.
But the babysitting thing.
That was odd.
That's past
Especially
odd.
when we're talking, this is back in the 50s. I mean, it seems unusual, but yes, that was one thing that is very noted, that he had babysat for people. So, and everyone in the community did find him odd, quirky, strange at times.
Like, how did that happen? Like, I mean, like, dude, I don't ever see you and you'll come over here and babysit my kid. Like, no, bro.
I don't know. I guess times were tough out in Plainfield back then. I don't.
Now, he was also suspected of killing his brother, murdering his brother.
Yes.
So how did that come about? Do you know?
Well, one thing, his brother had started, or I don't know, it wasn't that he had just started. His brother was kind of pushing back against his mother's teachings. Yes. His brother had a woman that he was involved with. She was a divorcee with children, and he had talked about moving in with her. And of course, their mother, this was absolutely not acceptable, not okay. And Ed very much followed whatever his mother said, just absolutely. So there was some tension things going on in the family. Well, supposedly, the story that happened with his brother, they were allegedly burning off some area on the farm, or a fire started on the farm, and his brother got separated from him. He lost track. His story is he lost track of his brother, didn't know where he was on the property, and the fire was going on. It was lost control. He ended up running into town because, of course, they didn't have a phone. They were very poor. He ran to get help, and once they came back to help, when they came back, he walked them directly to where his brother's body was. Although he had said he did not know where his brother was on the property, he had lost track of him. He walked him directly to his brother. His brother had died in the fire. Coroner's report, asphyxiation was the reason he died, but there was also reports of that he had a lot of head trauma, a lot of bruising on his head. There was head trauma. So there are a lot of questions there. What really happened? I mean, he may have attacked his brother in some way and made him incapable of escaping and left him there to burn.
So they just ruled it out? Did they just rule it out for an accident, or how did that go about?
Right. At the time, that's what it was considered. Right. And which his father had died, which is, like I said, we said his father was alcoholic. He was abusive. His father died in 1940. Augusta ended up dying in 1945. Like I said, she was this religious fanatical. She was domineering. And she would not divorce their father, and all the time they were married to him because of her religious fanaticism. She could not divorce him, so
I wonder why. This is just me. What possessed him? The things that he did, and I'm going back to the bodysuit. And I know I heard what you said, but they had said that he made it so he could be close to her, so he could be inside of her, like inside of the body.
He would wear the suit to pretend to be his mother. That's what he told investigators. That when because how all of this came about, him getting caught. There was a woman in town, and Ed was coming to her store pretty often, showing a lot of interest in her. Well, her son came by the store one day. He found a pool of blood. She was not there. He called the police. And as I understand, her son was maybe a deputy or a deputy sheriff, something at that time. But he called the police. The investigators came in. The last receipt written in the store was to Ed Gein. And because of the unusual attention he had been giving lately and coming around, that would definitely pointed investigators in that direction. They went to his farm. There was no electricity on the farm, and they walked in to find what one FBI profiler I heard discussing it. She said she had seen the crime scene photos when she was training, and she said of all those she has seen, this was the most disturbing thing she had ever seen.
So we have bodysuits made of skin. We have shrunken skulls that I read somewhere about some shrunken skulls he had, and he wore their face.
He would tell people around the community he had shrunken skulls in the house. Once when he was trying to trade property or something with some neighbors, they came to his house, and she's heard these rumors, and she said, so is that room over there where you keep the shrunken heads? And he goes, no, it's this room over here, and just went on as if, and definitely there was, I don't know shrunken heads, but there was definitely some truth to, yes, he had a lot of body parts in the house.
So body parts, skin, faces that he would wear as masks?
Yes, they found faces of at least 9 women that were,
and they were all women, wasn't it?
They were all women, and they were hanging on the wall that he used as masks. He had fashioned bowls from human skull.
Oh yes, the bowls.
Bowls, dishes, things like that. Yes. Lampshades
made
of skin.
Strings made out of lips.
He had
curtain strings.
He had a box of noses. He had a belt made of nipples.
What? I had not read all this.
He kept a box of specifically women's genitalia that he had preserved and kept in a box. He had lips, tongues, fingernails.
Yes, I read all that.
All of that. Yes.
Oh,
and this is outside of the skin suit. Now the skin suit, it wasn't an all one piece kind of thing.
No, he had to put it together.
A corset that was made of a torso, leggings or pants made from corpses, a shirt as well that had been made from women's corpses. All of these were made, and gloves as well.
Oh,
gloves as well. And he had sewn all these together himself.
So this is, and I just want everybody to brace yourself because this is really fixing to get a little crazy. He was also a cannibal.
Well, yeah, possibly. I haven't ever seen a lot of. There's some that say he was, some that were say there was a heart on the stove when the investigators came.
You brought that up, yes.
But they don't know what the actual purpose of it was. Had part of it been consumed, or I never could quite find some distinct details on that.
Okay.
And there are a lot of issues with his interviews and investigation because of his mentality, because of his mental issues.
Right.
He was very suggestive. Anything the investigators would say, Ed, did you do this? He would say, yeah, I'm sure I did. Well, did you do this? Did this happen? Yeah, it probably did.
You know what's funny that you bring that up? When the last time that we did a show together, which was last year when we talked about Dahmer, we talked about Lucas. Remember we talked about Lucas?
Henry Lee Lucas.
And remember how he used to admit to shit that he didn't even do. So it's kind of
prefrontal cortex issues, abuse during childhood, which we know Henry Lee Lucas had physical trauma to his head severely as a child.
Right.
Yes.
Because it damaged his eye.
Right. Ed Gein, interestingly, had a lazy eye because of a growth on one of his eyes. He had a lazy eye as well. But he had trauma from abuse as a child.
Right.
And likely had the same prefrontal cortex issues that you see.
Well, their IQ was very. I think what was Lucas 80? What was
Lucas was probably very low,
80s, I think
and I've never seen anything on Ed Gein's IQ, but he definitely did have issues as far as his intellect,
that
his
is so
mental
crazy.